Well, good afternoon, everyone. This morning, we demonstrated once again that our Democratic colleagues do not want to have a normal appropriations process. For the second time, they have prevented us from getting on to the defense appropriations bill. I'll say this, they were quite candid about it. They didn't want to do any appropriation bills, even though this year the Appropriations Committee marked up and reported out every one of them, every one of the 12 appropriation bills. The defense bill came out of committee 27-3, and then they decided they wanted to have a crisis by guaranteeing that we ended up in a big discussion about busting the caps on the Budget Control Act. Well, we're going to first pass a short-term CR into December. I just filed cloture on a measure that will be before the Senate Thursday afternoon, which would also give those who have been offended and appalled by the Planned Parenthood videos an opportunity to defund that portion of Planned Parenthood funding which is in appropriated accounts. And so we'll have that vote Thursday afternoon. With that, I'll turn to you, John.
Well, after the Thursday vote, I would just say that this is not the last, but really just the beginning of our efforts to deal with the horrific activity depicted in these Planned Parenthood videos. Earlier today, of course, Democrats voted to block the Capable of Pain Unborn Child Protection Act, which would allow the U.S. to join the rest of the developed world in banning late-term abortions. There are only 7 countries of the world that allow abortions under 20 weeks, or after 20 weeks, I should say, including countries like Vietnam, and North Korea, and China. And the question I have for some of our Democratic colleagues is, at what point is there any limitation on elective abortions up to a time of full-term delivery of an unborn child? If they have any limitations whatsoever that they believe in, I'd like to hear them, and we ought to have that discussion. But so far, all we see is blocking, even considering important pieces of legislation, like I mentioned a moment ago, the Unborn Child, Capable of Pain Unborn Child Protection Act. But there will be other votes on other pro-life bills, and I thank the Majority Leader for giving us the opportunity at least to get people on record today, but we will make further progress.
This week we have the privilege and honor of hosting the Pope when he comes here to the nation's capital, and I think everybody here is looking forward to that opportunity. The Pope is a man of God who has given his life to serving the Lord and to serving the least among us. We may have some different opinions on some of the issues that he'll bring up, but we recognize the importance of the Pope's visit here, and we'll look forward to giving him the utmost respect when he makes his visit to the Capitol. And one of the things that we hope, too, and things that we can learn, obviously, from the Pope about mercy and compassion and forgiveness, there are also some things we hope that he can take away from visiting our country for the first time and recognizing that free enterprise is the greatest anti-poverty force that the world has ever seen, and that when people can act freely and enjoy the fruits of the labors and give to other charitable organizations, that it benefits all of mankind and has provided tremendous relief to people all over the world. And so we hope that as we celebrate, obviously, our Judeo-Christian history and realize that we're a country that's founded on those principles, it is those principles that animate people who are involved in their churches and their synagogues, people who are involved in charitable activities, people who are involved in their communities all across this country. So we look forward to welcoming the Pope and hearing what he has to say when he comes this week.
And we talk about funding the government. Recall that the Appropriations Committee did its job. They have passed all of the subcommittee bills and an appropriations bill, the first time in 6 years. And yet what happened this morning? The Democrats blocked moving to the Appropriations Committee that funds our military, and they did it at a time when this is a bill that has come out of the committee with overwhelming support, yet they blocked it on the floor. Now, at the same time that the blocking on the floor was occurring, they were having a press conference about their new initiative, which has to do with climate change. I will tell you, this is just a warmed-over version of what has failed in the past. The Democrats said they did it to send a message. The message that they're sending is higher energy costs for hardworking Americans. They're sending a message of fewer energy jobs, and they're sending a message of less reliable energy for America. There are real costs to what they're proposing, costs to our economy, costs to our national security. The costs are real, and the benefits really won't make a dent in global emissions. There is a reason that energy is referred to as the master resource, because it powers our country, powers our military, and at a time when China and Russia are getting more aggressive, we should do nothing that's going to weaken America, and that's what this Democrat proposal does.
At the Armed Services Committee today, we had the opportunity to hear General David Petraeus give us his assessments of the situation in the Middle East. I think people on both sides of the dais could agree that General Petraeus showed a lot of wisdom and is actually a national treasure when it comes to looking at the situation and deciding what needs to be done going forward. David Petraeus said this today. He said that ISIS is spewing instability and extremism over the region and the rest of the world. At a time like that, we need the defense appropriation bill before the Senate and before the House, and we need to get it passed and on the President's desk. So I joined with my colleagues today in really failing to understand why our friends on the other side of the aisle would prevent us from taking up a bill which was passed by the Appropriations Committee by a vote of 27-3. I would also point out that President Obama sent a budget request earlier this year asking for $612 billion in defense funding. This Senate appropriations bill gives the President that exact amount. So why in the world are Democrats filibustering an attempt to bring this bill forward? It's passed overwhelmingly. It's something our troops need, and we need to pass it. Let me take just a moment to underscore also what Senator Thune said about the visit from the Pope. We're delighted to be hosting him. It's a historic event, and I can just tell you, in our conversations with our brothers and sisters on the Democratic side of the aisle, we actually hope that we can show a little more decorum to the Pope than we sometimes do at State of the Union addresses. It is our hope on this side of the aisle and the Democratic side of the aisle that we can avoid the dueling ovations, the jack-in-the-box standing for this and for that. Listen to one of the most famous and one of the most respected voices on the face of the earth with the respect and decorum that is due someone in his position.
Senate Democrats are bound to filibuster any spending bill that includes a Planned Parenthood. What are your next steps? Will you move to a clean CR right after?
Yeah, well, first we're going to wait the vote on Thursday and see how that comes out. I hope there will be some reconsideration of the position you just expressed that they have. We'll let you know the way forward after we see what happens Thursday afternoon.
Senator, you had called that an act of futility to keep voting on this Planned Parenthood measure. Why do you feel like you need to do it again?
We're going to have the vote that I described on Thursday, and we'll see what happens after that.
Senator McConnell, what do you think the Pope would have thought about the results of today's vote on the election?
Oh, my goodness. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from the Pope, as Senator Thune and Senator Wicker said, and he can speak for himself.
Senator McConnell, Chris Christie was on television Sunday. He says that the Senate Republicans should enact the nuclear option to get this Iran deal passed through the chamber. What's your reaction to that? And others have called for that.
Well, we appreciate all the good advice we're getting from members of the House of Representatives and candidates for president about how to run the Senate. That'll obviously be the decision we'll make ourselves. Look, I'm not going to start commenting on all the things that the candidates for president are saying. and quite a broad variety of comments about virtually everything on the part of all of them. Okay, thank you.